was a teenager in college and people would ask me about my hometown, I was embarrassed to tell them where I was from. It was such a little town with 3 traffic lights and hardly any paved streets and sections where black people lived. As I grew older, I found out some important things had happened in my town. Just 3 miles from my home stood this magnificent school. It was the first African-American school in North Carolina to be accredited, and during its time, it was one of the most outstanding schools in the South.
This is a picture of the junior college graduates coming back home on a reunion. And if you look at it, you'll see most of your parents, grandparents, and people that you know.
In 1994, graduates and former students gathered at the opening of an exhibit on the history of Brick School.
I started school here at Brick when I was 2nd grade and stayed here through model school, elementary school, high school, and 1 year of college, the year that it closed.
I was here most of my high school. I did leave for 2 years, but I came back and I was here when the Brick closed.
I came here and did my 2 years of junior college work.
I attended Brick in the year 1923 and 24. And Mrs. Miller was one of my teachers, and I'm still learning about Brick. Thank you.
All right. This used to be the model school. Oh, down there.
Did you go to the model school?
No, I didn't go to the model school.
So, how old were you
when
you moved to Brick?
You gonna ask me questions, huh? Is
Not
that it?
necessarily. You can just talk.
All right.
But you know so much to tell us.
Yeah, all right. I'll tell you. I came from Oak City, North Carolina, where there was a 1-room schoolhouse. And I had three sisters and 1 brother. They had 2 teachers in this 1 room. I came in the 6th grade to Brick, Joseph Keesby Brick High School. I saw all these dormitories around here, and I saw all these people from different parts of the country, state, Georgia, South Carolina, and other states. And I said, I don't know. I think I better stay in the 6th grade.
Well, I became interested in the history of Brick School. I began looking around for people who could give me some answers. I learned that Dorothy N. Borden Miller, daughter of Thomas N. Borden, the founder of Brick School, was alive. I found her in Washington, D.C. She was 94 years old, blind, and living alone. In the drawers of her dining room buffet, I found pictures of Brick School. She couldn't tell you who the people were, but before she lost her sight, she had had the foresight to write their names on the back of most of the photos. This is a picture of her father, Thomas N. Borden. As a boy, Thomas helped his mother cane chairs to make a living. When he was 17, he left the mountains of Northern Virginia for Cleveland, wearing a homespun, homemade suit. He worked as a bellboy in a Cleveland hotel and saved enough money to go to Oberlin College and later Fisk University. Sarah Jane Evans graduated from Oberlin College in 1889 and married Thomas N. Borden 2 years later. The Evans were free Negroes. Their house in Oberlin, Ohio, became station number 99 on the Underground Railroad. Her father, Wilson Bruce Evans, served time in jail for helping free a fugitive slave. Her uncle and cousin fought with John Brown at Harper's Ferry.
Thomas M. Borden and his wife Sarah Jane came to Enfield in 1895 to start brick school for the American Missionary Association. Old legends say that the land on which brick school was built was once used to break in slaves. Mrs. Julia Brick of Brooklyn, New York, gave the 1,100-acre plantation to the American Missionary Association, an organization that supported black schools all over the South. She wanted the AMA to start a school for black people. She named the school after her late husband, Joseph Keesby Brick. In 1895, most black children in the South went to school 8 to 10 weeks, if they were lucky. Most blacks didn't even know anyone who had been to college. As late as 1916, North Carolina had no public high schools for black youth. Yet a third of the high school age population in the state were black.
The school opened with only one student, but at the end of the first year, there were 54 names on the roll book. As people heard about the school, more and more students came.
Some people sent their children to boarding schools such as Brick, but many families could not afford the monthly tuition. Thomas M. Borden said that he knew fathers who plowed by the light of the moon and mothers who began washing clothes at 4 o'clock in the morning to get the monthly tuition of $8.
It was trying to entice the students to do something else besides working on the farms, and to get away from the farm work.
In 1895, blacks had been freed from slavery only 30 years, and a lot of talk focused on the question, what kind of education should blacks have? According to Booker T. Washington, schools should teach black youth to work with their hands. W.E.B. Du Bois said that schools should prepare blacks to take their place as full and equal citizens in the society. M. Borden criticized the antagonism and divisiveness created by this debate. He and Sarah Jane decided that brick school students should have both a sound academic foundation and a strong program of manual arts.
Everybody asked me, what was the philosophy of your family? And I said, my philosophy was that you took brains to do anything in the work. If you're going to use your hand, you must know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. I think my mother worked just as hard trying to make the school a success. She had a very brilliant brain, and she used to teach Greek to people in the country that were farmers.
The question may then be asked, was brick unique? I believe it was, partially because of Principal in Borden's leadership. His vision for brick was so carefully crafted to fit in between opposing philosophies of education for African Americans at that time. It could have been no accident. His philosophy was a politically sophisticated response designed to ensure the school's survival, and with the school's survival, racial uplift.
Uplifting the race was certainly a goal of the brick curriculum. There was foresight in teaching students about African geography and Negro history. It was a way of helping students establish pride in their ancestry and who they were. The subjects trigonometry, Greek, and Latin helped prepare students for higher education.
High school graduates who were valedictorians. When I went to Fisk University, I finished with a magna cum laude. I mean, high grades. When I went there, I'd show you the kind of courses they have. They gave me tests in spelling, mathematics. They gave me mathematics and trigonometry. I see they're taking high class courses here. In trigonometry, I went to Fisk and they told me I had to take it over again. I said, I've had trigonometry. They sent me to the math teacher. He gave me a problem to work out. And I worked it out on the floor so fast, he said, you don't need to take trigonometry.
I took a preschool pre-course in medicine. Okay. And 2 years, and he was the man that taught us. And we had to kill a cat and study all parts of the cat.
Brick School offered manual arts, where boys learned carpentry and machine skills, and domestic science, where girls learned cooking and sewing, and everyone learned the dignity of work.
At the end of the year, each student spoke before the whole school. And you had to project, you had to speak, say your piece, and it had to reach. They had to be able to hear it.
Brick School said that its most important mission was teaching students how to live. The dormitory and dining hall were classrooms. M. Borden said sometimes students came from homes where they didn't have eating utensils. But 2 weeks in the dining hall, and you couldn't tell those students from anyone else.
And there's certain ways you had to be dressed, and certain ways you had to carry yourself.
They called the ladies Miss, and the ladies called the gentleman Mr. And up until the time my father died, he called my mother Mrs., and my mother called him Mr. Pittman.
What were some of those valuable?
Respect for the lady. And my girlfriend was living over there in Brewster Hall. And when the recitals come down, you could escort them from the dormitory. You had to send an invitation, and the matron had to decide on it, and she would send you back an answer to your invitation.
The young ladies wore high neck blouses and long skirts with white aprons, stockings always, and the gentlemen had to wear neckties with their shirts buttoned with a nice necktie and hats or caps. My father, during his farming, he'd get on a tractor and go out with his necktie. Every morning he got up, he would wear a necktie, no matter what.
Mr. M. Martin and the rest of the members of the faculty insisted that we be on time.
Oh yes, because you were on time for your classes. Plus, when they had a program, if they said at 7 o'clock, it started at 7.
And they rang a bell. They rang a bell. Started at 5 minutes to 8. You saw the kids going from every dormitory, coming from out in the country to get to class at 8 o'clock.
When we would reach the Creek Bridge, which is actually north of Brick, we knew that if we were there when the chapel bell began to ring, we would be able to get to school on time if we moved just a little bit faster.
We were late sometimes, and when we were late, we would just kind of hide until Mr. Emborn found out that we were out there, and he talked with us, and then he sent us home.
One of the things that have followed me probably all of my life since then was the fact that I consider time one of our most valuable assets. And if you want to get me upset, be late.
This is a picture of the first faculty of Brick School. All of them are people of color, which was somewhat unusual. At many AMA schools, the faculty was white. Speaking about the faculty, AMA Secretary Beard said, "These teachers know that they are doing more than teaching. They are building up a new order of things. They are saving a race.
I can remember the history class. Miss Brown taught us we had to keep notebooks, and we'd have to have articles on the history as to the settling Navy of America.
When I was here in the 4th grade, we had a Miss Baker teaching cooking. And I told Miss Baker, you're getting your hands dirty there building that fire in that cold wood stove. She said, don't be afraid of getting your hands dirty, girls. Always, soap and water will clean any dirty hands. And so all my life, I had one objective, that I was going to be a home economics teacher.
I still can go to that spot, go to good school, and sit and just see and think about them days which I was a student on those grounds, and the teachers, the buildings.
A girl who wanted to enter the work department wrote to Mr. Inborden. Principal Inborden told her that the department was crowded. The young girl answered, I am coming anyway, and if you are as good as folks say you are, you can't find it in your heart to send me away. I can do any work you want done. I'll plow if you want me to plow. She came. She works in the dining hall. The matron for whom she works finds a girl's work always well done.
I was born here and lived here until I finished junior college. Then I went from here to Talladega, and from there to North Carolina Central. Got a master's. Then I studied some more at the University of Cincinnati and at University of Pennsylvania, and traveled a whole lot with the Brick Club when they got organized.
I would say this is a chopping board. Only the thing that I know of, this was made by my father during the time he was attending brick school. Joseph Wills, class of 1915. And this is what my mother used to do all of her chopping, her steaks, cutting her steaks and so forth on here.
I was not a college graduate. I was just a middle school student. But the things I learned here at Brick have taken me down through the years.
My mother was a student here. Her 4 sisters finished here. Dorothy Inboard was in the class with some of my aunts, and my uncle was president of the local chapter, Brick Chapel, and I see Uncle Bourne up there on one of those pictures. So I am Brick. I told him when I walked in the door, I'm Brick itself.
In May 1925, the Executive Committee of the AMA approved a state recommendation to make Brick School a junior college. In the fall of 1926, the college division opened. 1 year later, the state accredited the college department. Brick School students could take liberal arts, pre-medicine, or teacher training.
I was able to get a teacher's certificate. I spent 39 years in Halifax County, serving mostly as principal of several schools in the county.
After I graduated, my first teaching position was in Northampton County. I started teaching in Enfield. And after teaching here about 11 years, I had earned a master's degree from Teachers College in Columbia University.
All of my sisters and brothers came to this place. I don't know why everybody got the same idea of becoming a teacher, but all 7 of us were teachers.
And I spent 42 and a half years in a classroom with high school students, working with English, social studies.
Students and faculty created much of their own entertainment. The Aristo Club, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority, the YMCA, YWCA, and other organizations kept weekends busy. Although the school had no gymnasium, it fostered participation in competitive sports.
There was a football field there. They played football, baseball, and they had a big fence around the stadium. And you had to go up a steps and then go down what they call over the sty. And you go up and down and onto the field.
In 1932 and 1933, Brick Junior College won the state basketball championship.
The coach gave us a dinner in the dining hall, and he had let everybody know that the basketball team did well. And said, Julius, my name is Julius. Said Julius outplayed everybody, and we beat St. Paul 22-24, and I made
The winning.
12 of them points.
Wow!
The large brick farm offered students many opportunities to learn, but it also provided people from the community the chance to come to the school and learn more about farming.
They had what they call Farmers Day over there. And the band and a lot of the students went down, and because a lot of the farmers and other people came in on the train, and they would meet them and lead them back to the campus.
Farmers Day began as a small meeting of area farmers, but it grew to become a huge event.
Came on the cars, the buses, any way that they could get there. Went in the big chapel, and that's where the session was. Cars parked all over everything. And during that time, we didn't have classes, of course, we liked that.
Speakers from the state and agricultural colleges told the farmers that they must begin with good stock to raise fine hogs and chickens. They needed to grow vegetables as well as cotton. Most of all, they must buy the land that they tended.
Most people that farmed lived on the white man's farm, and they didn't learn how to do things for themselves. They only was doing what was told. But they taught them there how to do some things for themselves. And one day they could be on their own if they had a little place.
Each year, the audience warmly applauded farmers who had purchased land since the last conference. And the new landowners told the audience how they did it.
My father, if there was a meeting over at Brick School, if it was anything about the farm, my daddy was always here. He always came. And then he would bring it back to us, and that's how we learned the things that we know today.
Brick School owned over 1,000 acres of land, but Inbourden said that not a single black person owned land within 5 miles of the site when the school started in 1895. 38 years later, blacks owned every piece of land adjacent to the school. Commencement brought hundreds of people to the campus.
It was such a great excitement for all 5 children to come over here every commencement. My mother would order beautiful clothes from Sears and Roebuck and dress us up, and we would catch shoe fly and spend the day here.
My mom had made us these little white frilly voile dresses, and she had made my younger brother, who was the baby at that time, a white linen suit. He had on white shoes and everything.
Used to attend all of the graduation exercises there, I think in the month of May.
Graduation was held out on the lawn, and the girls would have on white gowns, and we would be on blankets on the ground. My mother would have all of us on the ground watching the commencement exercise.
At that time I was very young. I looked forward to the ice cream and the nice eating that they used to have around there on the days that they would be watching the graduation. I think I did more eating than I did anything else.
The Brick Bugle stated, 12 million Negroes all over this land are crying for larger life and liberty. 200,000 of them are in this eastern section of North Carolina, and they look to such schools as the Brick Junior College for this larger inspiration and vision. Despite these accolades and the historic work of the school, in 1933 the AMA abandoned plans to expand the institution and announced that Brick School would not open in the fall.
That night, we were getting ready for supper, and my father, being so familiar with the school, and Mr. M. Borden and the administration over there, he said, I want all your children to come sit around the table. I have something I have to say to you. We had this huge table in the kitchen, and we all got around the table and sat, and he said, I want to tell you that the school's going to close. And with that, it just stopped everything. It just broke our hearts.
In 1925, the AMA had replaced Mr. N. Borden as principal with an AMA official. Now, Mr. N. Borden did not leave the site. He stayed on the campus, but his position was greatly weakened, and the school suffered because of it.
They didn't tell us too much about it, more than, they were closing, but everybody was sad and just amazed. They just didn't know what to say.
The AMA pointed to the Depression and said that its own resources were shrinking and that the enrollment at Brick School was declining. The work program had been eliminated, and it made it impossible for poor students to come to the school. In addition, it robbed the school of the work of these students. Mrs. Miller pointed to the fact that when the school started, nobody had any money, and they had found a way for students to come to school. The attitude of the industrial philanthropists was that there are too many Negro colleges in North Carolina already. So if students from that area want to go to college, let them go to Raleigh. Well, the N. Borden family was just devastated. The AMA had promised Mr. N. Borden 20 acres of land when he retired, but he said, I'm not going to take it because the people will think that I was a part of the decision to close the school, and he didn't accept it.
The AMA transferred the education of area black youth to 3 county boards of education, which operated a public high school on the site until the building burned in 1946.
I can just remember riding by Mr. N. Borden's house and seeing him sitting on the porch, always alone. He was a very solitary figure. Why do you think that Brick School closed?
I think, if we might call it, the segregated minds of people. When they found out that Brick School's curriculum was other than teaching these boys, these black boys, how to farm the land, because that was a wonderful class. They needed to learn that. But Professor M. Borden wanted them to do other things. He was such a bright man, and he was looking ahead. thought they needed much stronger curriculum than just washing and ironing, cooking and farming.
The AMA never involved local people in the governance of the school. There was never a local board of trustees, a community advisory group. So all policy decisions were made in New York.
No one can estimate the loss, for Brick School served as the educational, cultural, and spiritual pulse of the community.
Even though we didn't come to junior college here, the values that were left, we could still feel. They were still taught. It was instilled in the person.
I was a grown girl getting married, and it really dawned on me just how much Brick School meant to us and what we, in turn, had inherited from our parents because they went to Brick School.
My mother, Olive May Bond, is back there. Her picture is there. And the thing I guess I'm most proud of is in 1965, she was named the Mother of the Year for the state of New Jersey, and we were all very proud of that. And she always talked about brick. This, to me, was my school because of my mother always talking about it.
I just can't say enough for Brick School. I got so much out of it. So much more love of understanding, to get along with people, to do the things that I was able to do.
Everything that I have achieved and accomplished in life, I give it to Brick Junior College because they gave me a feeling of belonging and caring. So today I join in the rest of you Brickites in saying, we hope this won't stop today.
For far too many years, the story of Brick School has gathered dust and faded from our conscious memories. Today we begin to reclaim that history and restore it to its rightful place in the history of our community for future generations to come.